of two Brussels insiders in Italy and Greece. We're wondering if the technocrats can do better than the politicians, with Stéphane Cosset of France's centrist Modem party. Joining us from Brussels, Vincenzo Scarpetta of the Open Europe think tank and of Afrique Asie magazine, monthly magazine. Augusta Conciglia is with us as well here in the studio. You've got a sort of David versus Goliath task ahead of you, it seems, when you're Italians these days, with bond markets continuing to clobber Italian sovereign debt. So what does the new PM do after nomination? Well, on Sunday, Mario Monti went to church, putting his faith in God and in the European Union, where he acted as commissioner for a decade.
More than ever, Italy must be a strong point and not a weak point of the European Union. Italy was a founding member of the EU and must remain a key player.
Vincenzo Scarpetta, is Mario Monti right to put his faith in Europe to get out of the crisis?
Well, of course, the rest of the Eurozone is watching at the moment, because Italy is not Greece. Italy is the Eurozone's third largest economy. So if Italy collapses, then the single currency goes. But here, again, I insist that we are witnessing that there is something wrong in terms of the normal democratic process in Italy, for example, because we have seen that because of the structure of the single currency, where at the moment you have virtually no way out of it, Italy is subject to a lot of external pressure, which is not only the pressure of the financial markets, but it's also the pressure of the European Commission, of the European Central Bank, of France and Germany as well. And we will see this pressure continuing, because the pressure was not on Silvio Berlusconi as a person, but is on Italy in order for Italy to get on with business and implement the crucial reforms that it needs.
Stéphane Cosset, your reaction to that?
Well, this is clear that the pressure was on Italy and was not on Berlusconi. I think that there was no personal attack on him at all, although that from time to time I could see Nicolas Sarkozy on the verge of being a little bit personal, I think. But I think that, yeah, Mario Monti is certainly for Europe, for Angela Merkel, for example, the right man at the right time, at the right place. But as we said before the break, the issue is whether political parties will back him or not. But there is no discussion that he is a guy who can talk to Angela, to Nicolas Sarkozy, to the European Commission. So he knows very well all those structures. So he's certainly the right person. Now, backing is the most important.
Augusta Conciglia, is this going to make him easy to blame, the fact that he is a Brussels insider?
Yes, already the Berlusconi people, party has mentioned it. Bossi, the same sort of statement yesterday, saying that the banks are dictating us the policy. So there is this difficulty. For the time being, who is really behind him is the Democratic Party, is the center-left group, who is not putting much conditions. The only condition is that he would have to change the electoral law in order to prepare a real change in the next elections. This is what is being asked. But there are other problems, because this, in the 39 points that have been agreed with the European Union, there are other few things that are not yet into it, and probably he will have to face, like the issue of the fiscality and the reforms in the pension system.
Now, it's not just Mario Monti, by the way. The new Greek prime minister, also a technocrat, also, I guess you could say, a Brussels insider. After all, he's more a Frankfurt insider, a former vice president of the European Central Bank. Greek newspaper Eleftherotypia on Friday, drawing the parallel between Greece and Italy and saying the similarities are remarkable. In both cases, the political system has proved to be unable to take charge of the crisis. Berlin, Paris, and Brussels took advantage of the opportunity to demand that the two main parties cooperate under the leadership of a technocrat because they had no further confidence in the country's politicians. Stéphane Cossé, it's being portrayed in the Greek press, as in some of the Italian press, as the decision of Brussels is you must change the prime minister and put so-and-so in its place.
Well, I mean, it is already starting, and that's why we are calling technocrats, actually, because those technocrats are scapegoats. They're scapegoats for bad news, for loss of sovereignty, for deepening into austerity and other things. This is why also you are calling in some countries the IMF. The IMF has to be the bad guy and has to say, well, this should be implemented. But technocrats do not have any political career in view, and that's why they are ready to take the hit, because they do not think in terms of what is going to be the next play for me, but whether I'm doing good for the country. So that's good news in a way, that they are already scapegoats for the country.
And by the way, this is what's one of the interesting points in all this, Vincenzo Scarpetta. It's not the first time you've had technocrats in Italy. Giuliano Amato in 1992 to respond to Italy's expulsion from the European monetary system. You had Lamberto Dini in 95 to reform the country's pension system. Is there kind of the feeling among Italians, well, we've been a bit naughty and now a professore has to come in so we can take our medicine?
Well, I wouldn't compare the current situation with the previous ones that you mentioned, because at the moment Italy's coming out of a very, very peculiar historical moment, because with Silvio Berlusconi's government there was the real impression that that Italy had reached a sort of political stalemate, complete paralysis of the political system. But and certainly Mario Monti, as a well-respected economist, is now very, very popular in Italy, and is seen as a sort of a savior of the country. But Monti needs to be very careful not to try to do too much, because he still needs to bear in mind that he's leading a government. I don't really like the word technocrat. I would say non-political experts, but an unelected government in any case.
And by the way, there's not just one Super Mario. There's two of them. There's Mario Draghi, who's the new head of the European Central Bank. And interestingly enough, a lot of the left-wing press has been pointing out the last few days, Augusto Conciglia, that Mario Monti, since 2005, international advisor to the Research Advisory Council of Goldman Sachs. Mario Draghi, who was vice president for Europe of Goldman Sachs between 2002 and 2006, and Lucas Papademos, governor of the Greek Central Bank at the time when effectively Goldman Sachs was helping the Greeks cook the books. Is there not the feeling that this is all going to be fodder for the populists in Italy, the fact that they have this association with Goldman?
Not only for the populists, it's a concern for the Democrats too, because we know what Goldman Sachs is, and even in the United States, most of Obama's collaborators were coming from Goldman Sachs, and they were the advisor for the plan for the relaunching of the economy, and we have seen the results. Today, the Financial Times was mentioning Mr. Monti as belonging to the master of the universe through this.
Stéphane Cossé?
Yeah, I do not. I mean, these are, I agree, a bad coincidence in a way. One way to see it is that Goldman Sachs is probably hiring also the best, the good technocrats.
But you say it's a bad coincidence, but we saw in America how the relationships between Henry Paulson and his former company influenced his decision-making when the time of the first crisis came around.
Yeah, but let's look at Mario Monti's past as a commissioner. I think he has been fining Microsoft, for example, an American company. I think there was the highest fine ever. he has been showing that he was fully independent, autonomous. So let's look at that also. I think that managing the Greek central bank also, there has not been any fraud as regards the new Greek prime minister. So let's not point out only this, but let's look at the career of those technocrats.
All right, Vincenzo Scarpella, you agree on that?
Yes, I think there's been a lot of talk about both Mario Draghi's and Mario Monti's past and their relations with Goldman Sachs. It's probably better if they are judged based on what they are going to do now, one as the president of the ECB and another one as the Italian Prime Minister.
All right, on the France 24 Debate Facebook page, when we asked the question about how you feel about the technocrats as they were coming in, mixed reactions. Bill from Poland writes, equality is not a word used in the EU. Democracy has been taken over by an unaccountable bureaucracy. While Reason in Zimbabwe answers, it's a gamble worth taking. Mainstream politicians know all the tactics of keeping themselves in power, but can't solve technical problems. Do you get the sense, Stéphane Cosset, when you watch political debates, that, well, politicians don't really know what they're talking about?
Well, I think that so far we haven't seen bureaucracy as regards the management of the euro area crisis. We've seen the Commission completely out of the picture, and therefore those civil servants from the Commission have not been able to influence the decision-making. Those who have been able to influence the decision-making are mostly Nicolas Sarkozy and Angela Merkel, two politicians. Whether they are good or not so good is another question. But I think that actually it is time also for the bureaucracy or just experts also to have also and give their view, because this is one way to reassure the markets, also the public opinion, and not only politicians.
Are Paris and Berlin squashing the best of the high civil servants in Brussels?
I don't know whether they're squashing, but I see a good sign, the fact that Schäuble today said, well, let's review or let's revise the treaty. And what does it mean? Let's give more power to the Commission, because this is his main proposal.
That is a big statement. The German Chancellor telling the CDU party conference this Monday that Europe faces its worst crisis since World War II, and hinting, although not as overtly as her finance minister, that yes, a reform of Europe is in the works.
For us, this means that we need to further develop the European Union structure. This does not mean less Europe. It means more Europe. It means building Europe in a way for the euro to have a future.
Vincenzo Scarpetta, your reaction to Angela Merkel's words?
Well, she's not. She has been saying this before. It's Germany is pushing for a limited change to the EU treaties in order to achieve closer integration, at least in the Eurozone. But I would like to draw your attention on one of the messages that you read before, because this gives us a taste of what's going on, because people in Greece especially, and in Italy as well, are really starting to think that that austerity, that their governments are piling austerity on austerity, because they are being put under pressure from Paris and Berlin, not to speak of the European Commission and the European Central Bank. And I would like to stay on Italy. Italy at the moment has an unelected government, and this government, if there is no improvement in the short term, will presumably come under further pressure by Brussels, Paris and Berlin to implement further austerity. So you will have the Italian citizens being imposed further austerity by an unelected government under pressure of foreign leaders and unelected European Commission officials.
Let me get Augusto Conchiglia in on this. Is that unfortunate timing then? Because you've had this Monday the leadership, the German Chancellor, the German Finance Minister saying we need to reform the treaties, and going even further, saying those treaties need to be amended so that countries that don't follow the rules can go their own way. Is that unfortunate, the timing of those statements from Angela Merkel and her finance minister?
No, Germany is looking for a greater integration since a long time. I mean, they are even keen for a certain form of federalism. So, of course, this would give a better base to the Eurozone. And I think it's a correct perspective in these circumstances. But what is worrying for an Italian today is not only that Europe is behind Mr. Monti, it could be also whether Mr. Monti is having enough sensitivity to deal with the complexity of the situation in Italy, where trade unions can block the country in one
day.
Yes, and I mean, his integrity is not in question. It's not because of Goldman Sachs. He has a certain sort of suspicion on him, but he has shown a rigidity in all this, the management of the Commission in the competitivity sector. I mean, he has fined big enterprises, but also he's asked the German bank of local banks in the Landers to pay back the state because they've been subsidized by the state to the level of 3 billion.
So too much rigidity in his style. In other words, Augusto Conchiglia, and that'll be our final word, you're saying he needs to act more like a politician.
Yes.
Okay, I want to thank you. I want to thank Stéphane Cosset, and I also want to thank Vincenzo Scarpetta for joining us from London, and thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate. We'll have more on the markets in a moment. Marcus Carlson will be here with business on France 24.